nation has continued to reel under the COVID-19 crisis, while the country's politics has refused to fare any better. All the attention in the House dissolution episode has now shifted to the composition of the Constitutional Bench, where legal practitioners have raised questions about its impartiality. As observers say, public faith in the judiciary is now at stake. Good morning, I'm Abhyuday Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Kantipur Oli objects to questions raised by legal practitioners regarding the Constitutional Bench, lambasts at 4 former Chief Justices, calling their statement an obstruction to court proceedings. The nation continues to reel under coronavirus crisis as 114 COVID-19 patients succumb to the virus. The government decides to evaluate this year's SEE through internal assessment. The World Health Organization announces to use Greek letters from now on to refer to variants first detected in countries like the UK, South Africa, and India. And Swiss tennis star Roger Federer advances to the second round of the French Open. Russian Daniil Medvedev also reaches the second round. Prime Minister Kantipur Oli has expressed objection on the question raised by legal practitioners regarding the Constitutional Bench. Premier Oli, while addressing the Youth Association's virtual meeting, claimed that advocates were looking for a verdict which they penned on their own. Prime Minister Oli has blamed the legal practitioners who questioned the impartiality of 2 justices of the Constitutional Bench of harboring anarchy. We have some excerpts of Prime Minister Oli's address.
वकिलहरूले न्यायाधीश तय गर्ने अब वकिलहरूले न्यायाधीश तय गर्ने हो भने वकिलहरूले ल्याएको लेखेर ल्याएको उनीहरूले पढेर सुनाऊ भनेको निर्णय सुनाउने वकिल चाहियो न्यायाधीश चाहियो उहाँहरूले लेखिदिनु पर्ने अब फैसला पनि उहाँहरू केही चाहिरहनु भएको छ हामीले लेखेर दिएको फैसला पढी बाँची सुनाउने न्यायाधीश बाहेकहरूलाई हामी मान्दैनौँ हुन दिँदैनौँ यस प्रकारका न्यायालय कुन अवस्थामा कालकोटधारी केही व्यक्तिहरूले न्यायालयलाई कुन अवस्थामा पुर्याउँदै हुनुहुन्छ कुन हैसियतमा पुर्याउँदै बडो गम्भीर विषय.
Prime Minister Oli has expressed his resentment against former Chief Justices as well. 4 former Chief Justices had issued a joint press release last week stating the dissolution of the House of Representatives as unconstitutional and a move that they said will annihilate the Constitution. Premier Oli, while targeting the 4 former Chief Justices, blamed them of obstructing the court's proceedings.
पूर्व न्यायमूर्ति उहाँहरूले न्यायालयको कसरी हुर्मत लिँदै हुनुहुन्छ पेन्सन खाएर आफ्नो समयमा केही नगर्ने अनि वर्तमान न्यायालयका काम कारबाहीमाथि हस्तक्षेपकारी ताण्डव गर्ने सडकमा यसले हाम्रो लोकतन्त्रलाई कहाँ पुर्याउँछ. तर म भन्न चाहन्छु यस प्रकारका आउटडेटेड एलिमेन्टहरुबाट यस्ता एलिमेन्टहरुबाट देशलाई दुष्प्रभावित हुन दिने छैन जोगाइनेछ.
The country continues to reel under the coronavirus crisis as 114 COVID-19 deaths were reported yesterday, taking the death toll to 7,386. The Health Ministry reported 4,178 COVID-19 cases yesterday. A total of 15,055 samples were tested through the PCR method, out of which 28% tested positive to COVID-19. Meanwhile, out of 2,425 samples tested through the antigen method, 584 tested positive. Out of the total positive cases, 1,263 were reported from the Kathmandu Valley. Kathmandu district alone registered 890 cases. Districts outside the Kathmandu Valley reporting higher number of infected cases are Morang, Dhading, Kailali, Jhapa, Makwanpur and Kavre. The number of active cases in the country has dropped to 106,400, with 6,500 individuals registering full recovery. The evaluation of secondary education examination SEE will be carried out through internal assessment this year as well. The cabinet meeting held yesterday evening decided to evaluate the SEE through internal assessment this year as well. The government took the decision at the recommendation of the Education Ministry amid the surging cases of COVID-19 in the country. Earlier on Sunday, the National Education Board had sought permission from the Education Ministry, floating 3 alternatives to conduct the SEE this year. This year's SEE was scheduled to be held from 27th of May last month, but could not be held due to the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the country. The discussion between the chairman of the ruling CPN-UML and Janata Samajwadi Party to seek political alliance ended inconclusively yesterday. In the meeting that lasted for around 4 hours at the Prime Minister's residence in Balwatar, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli requested Janata Samajwadi Party Chairman Mahanta Thakur to support the government, stating that majority of their demands had been fulfilled. The Thakur faction, however, requested for a few more days to arrive at a decision. The Thakur faction said that they needed more time considering the dispute within the Janata Samajwadi Party and the House dissolution case being heard at the Supreme Court. According to sources, the Thakur faction has demanded 10 ministerial berths in the new government. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Oli has not budged from giving a maximum of 8 ministerial positions. Premier Oli is planning to gain their support by adding state ministers. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Oli's confidant Subhash Nemwang termed the discussion positive, although a conclusion could not be reached. Leader of Janata Samajwadi Party and member of the task force, Lakshman Lal Karna, also stated that they were positive on joining the government and that the party's internal dispute had caused the delay. Meanwhile, the other faction of Janata Samajwadi Party, led by Chairman Upendra Yadav, has joined hands with the opposition alliance led by Nepali Congress. Electric products ranging from household items to vehicles are going to be cheaper in the Nepalese market. The government has slashed internal revenue and customs tariff on electric goods as per the budget announcement. The scenario means that the prices of electric vehicles will now come down by up to 60%. We have more in this report.
The electric vehicles until last year were laden with 10% custom tariff and 13% value-added tax. The then Finance Minister Yuvraj Khatioda, while unveiling the budget last year, had doubled the custom tariff, while internal revenue was hiked up to 80%. In the aftermath, no electric vehicles were imported, while prior to the current fiscal, 400 electric vehicles were imported. Following widespread protest, Finance Minister Bishnu Paudel has now scrapped internal revenue, while custom tariff has been lowered to 10%. Vehicles with larger seat capacities will be levied a maximum of 40% custom tariff. The Kia Niro car, which earlier sold for 10 million rupees, will now be available for 7 million rupees. Likewise, Tesla 3, which earlier cost 12.5 million rupees, will now be available for 5 million rupees. The government, in the meantime, has also reduced custom tariff on electric household goods. Induction stoves, refrigerator, fan, grinder, among others, are likely to be cheaper as the government has slashed custom tariff while scrapping internal revenue altogether. This scenario indicates towards heightened use of electricity, while the country is poised to add 1,600 megawatts of electricity to the national grid by next year.
In our Public Voice segment, we had asked the local residents in Palpa what could be the reason for the failure to give an outlet to the nation as per the spirit of the Constitution. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
अहिले आफ्नो कुर्सीको खिलाउटीमा लगाइरहेका छन् अथवा आफ्नो पद लिनको लागि हो जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई।
राजनैतिक दलहरू बीचको आन्तरिक द्वन्द्व सत्ता र शक्तिको निम्ति भएको अस्वस्थ प्रतिस्पर्धा नै संविधान कार्यान्वयनको मुख्य समस्या हो जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ।
संविधान विज्ञहरूले नै अब त्यसलाई हेलचेक्राइ गरेको, त्यसलाई वास्ता नगरेको, त्यसको विषयमा खोज्ने एउटा निकाय बलियो नभएको जस्तो लाग्छ।
गुटगत स्वार्थ, वर्तमान प्रधानमन्त्रीको चरम सत्तालिप्सा र वर्तमान प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूबाट गरिएका हरेक सिफारिसहरूलाई सम्माननीय राष्ट्रपतिज्यूबाट हुबहु रूपमा स्वीकार गरिनु।
जनताहरुमा एउटा त सचेतना कमी पनि हो, इमानदारताको पनि कमी छ र आफ्नो ठाउँमा जुन कर्तव्य गर्नुपर्ने त्यो सबैले निभा गरे जस्तो पनि लाग्दैन।
सत्ता लिप्सा र मनोवृत्ति एकदम उच्च खालको मनोवृत्ति भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि आजको संविधान धाराशायीमा परेको छ।
And it's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. And here's the question. What should be done to embrace more entrepreneurs through concessional loans? Your options are A, expand awareness, B, increase entrepreneurship skill, and C, ease process. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And that's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.